think a good thing to talk about at this point is how could it even be? What's the shaykhs? Isn't the whole thing about Yeshua, isn't it a Goyish thing? I mean, Klal Yisrael rejected him, and it's a Goyish thing, no? So how could you even, I mean, what's the shaykhs? It's coming from two separate worlds. How can you say that you're putting them together? How can it be? So let's take a look. We were talking about the Bayis before. So yeah, and then please, if I'm looking for feedback and for response, because I think that maybe a lot of people know more than me. I mean, I know a lot of people know more than me, but maybe people know more about that part of history. Like I just found out something today from listening to Rabbi Wein about that the Sanhedrin didn't do Dinei Nefashos, that they didn't do Ketola. And he quoted that Mishnah, the Rabbi Kiva of Tarfon, that if they were on a Sanhedrin, on a Bezdin, that they would never have killed anyone because they would always have found that Tzad Zchus. And Rabon Gamliel was around at that time, and I have 100% faith in Rabon Gamliel that he was Gadol Shebegdarim. I mean, he had the Kohanim of Michaya Maysim, Raban Gamilel. I mean, it says Raban, and we know that and everyone who in the Gemara who had the name Rebbe before them had the Kohanim of Michaya Maysim. So how could it be? So I'd like to discuss this more because I know that I could have more understanding from it. Basically, what I see now is that I think we all know that the Zman of the second Bayis was a Zman of a lot of corruption. You had the Tzedekим coming up, and you had a lot of, like I said, a lot of false Moshiachs. And there was a time when they had problems, and then there was rest, and there was problems, and there was rest. Just before Hanukkah, and Hanukkah came, and then after Hanukkah there was problems. And I heard from Rabbi Reisman, and I'm just saying these names just Stam Azai, so I don't know these. I just I heard the shiurim, so I'm able to learn. And I heard on one of Rabbi Reisman's shiurim about the in the Zman of Hanukkah when they first started ruling, because the Kohanim had no right to be melochim, but yet the Kohanim they functioned as the melech because they functioned as Ahron, Michaya Hoad, because it's the same way, and Rabbi Reisman explained it beautifully. And that's something that helps me because, I didn't learn it in yeshiva. I learned it by listening to a shir, and that's, I guess a lot of people learn that way. So by listening to shiurim, by listening to, to things like that. And so he said it's the same thing today. I mean, in Klal Yisrael today, nobody elects or nobody is memana a leader, says, we're going to appoint you as the Gadol Hadar. But somebody who's learning, and people go to him, and people ask him, and people start to accept him because they see that he has understanding, and he has siyata d'shmaya, and they feel about him that he's a tamim, he's pasha, and he knows. So they go to him, and they ask him, and invite him, and people keep asking, and that's how he becomes known, and suddenly he's a gadol. So that's how it worked with Rav Moshe, and with Rav Pam, and with all the gedolim. And that's how it worked. Also, the Hasidic about everything, that's how it's, I don't know much about the Hasidic Welt. I wish I would, because I know that there's still, it's gewaldig. There's a lot of chizuk. So anyway, so what I learned was about that, and then, but after Hanukkah, so you had these Kohanim that were leaders, but then they started to take it the wrong way after that. In other words, they had the authority, they had the melucha, so to speak. They were the Gedolei Hadar in some sense. I don't know exactly. It's hard to really understand these things. That was such a long time ago. But So they had the melucha over Klal Yisrael, and they took it the wrong way. I don't know when. Shortly after it developed, and then finally they didn't rule the right way. They ruled for personal gain, and they didn't judge the right way, and they didn't paskin the right way, and they didn't do the right things. And we've seen that in the history of Klal Yisrael, and we understand the second Bayis. Everybody knows. I knew because I remember learning in all the Mishnayos and all the Gemaras and the Yuma, about all the the ways that in the second Bayis there's in the Mishnah Novus, the second Bayis was different from the first Bayis in the types of nisim that took place. So we know that there was a time that things were really bad, and then so coming to the end. You find out, Wine mentioned about this, but to me it's not a kasha, because even though Yeshua spoke against what he called the tzdukim, the perushim, the Pharisees, the perushim, but I don't think that he was talking to those Yichidei Hador like Rabon Gamliel. It would be fest, it would be awesome if there would be somebody, if Rabon Gamliel and Yeshua had a conversation, and we can hear about that conversation. I don't think they ever spoke. I know that Nakdemon, by the way, Nakdemon, who says, he's in the Mishnah, he's in the Gemara, and he went to Yeshua, and he learned by Yeshua. He became a Talmid of Yeshua afterwards. So here's a person like Nakdemon Ben Gurion. I think it was Nakdemon Ben Gurion. And he's mentioned in one of the writings of the book of Yochanon, the book of John, what they call it, and he's called Nicodemus. He's called it, but it's Nakdemon. And for him, a great nace happened. We understand that. We learned about it. But what we didn't learn is that later on he followed Yeshua. It's very interesting. But so I believe that all of the things that he was talking, Yeshua was talking, and just putting, because Klal Yisrael came. A lot of the leaders who were in leadership, of course, and the Kohanim Gedolim, we know that they didn't make it from one Yom Kippur to another Yom Kippur because they weren't right. They weren't, and they died from one year to the next in the Kodesh Kodesh, and they went in and they were zapped. I mean, they weren't the right way with Hashem. So everything was corrupt. Everything was corrupt. And the Sunas Chinam that took place, it was just everybody. I mean, the leadership was in that, and it took effect also in the people, and the Nevi'im who came. I mean, before Yeshua was somebody who came, Begeder Eliyohu, and he was machers to everybody to do tshuva. His name is Yochanon, and he came to everybody, and people. He was Tovel people. And a lot of people came, and then they did tshuva. A lot of the Hamayim came. And of course, when the Perushim, and when the leaders, the quote-unquote leaders, I don't think this was the Yichidim. I think there was Yichidim, but the Yichidim weren't listened to. And I'd like to hear more about that, because I know that there's more. I believe that, everything that I've seen so far supports this point. That the leadership at the Zman of Yeshua, and the leaders, another thing Rabbi Wine talks about is that, like the Catholic Church, who I don't follow and I don't know much about, but I know that they're Esav, and I know that they're Sonei Yisrael, and they're not, I have no shaykhs to them, but they have said, the whole thing, that the Jews are Christ killers, so to speak, right? Because they gave him over to, So all of this, I don't believe that it was people like Rabon Gamliel who gave him over, because I think if Rabon Gamliel would have seen him and would have spoken to him, he would have understood some things that Nakdemon saw and that others saw also. And we'll have to, Bez Hashem, pick it up in the next segment. Shkoyach.